Welcome back. Another grand old day of Irish summer here. Been into town this morning, ordered a few bits. Ordered a new spigot bearing for the centre of the flywheel. Uh, got a bit of brake clean as well, and some engine enamel to paint the block. But probably too damp to do that today. Um, Hammerite would work just fine for that. It's very heat resistant, but I just wanted it to be easy and spray it with a can of enamel. It'll be fine. What else? Yeah, should get on with the timing belt and a few bits and pieces like that. I've got my adapter plate on the way. Sump. I have a bid on a sump. I was tempted. There was a whole bunch of T25 parts. Basically, somebody had gutted a van and there was a whole pile of parts for sale there online. Was going to go buy the whole lot, but really I don't think it's cost effective. It's 300 kilometers away. So I've gone there, paid for it, come back. I don't think there's enough extra stuff there to warrant the price. So what I'm going to do is fabricate a lot of the engine mounts and the engine support bars and stuff. The only thing I'm really stuck for now, granted if I get that sump, is the oil pickup, but I haven't actually seen the oil pickup to know what it is. If it's steel, I don't think it is, I think it's aluminium. So I'll probably just have to find one. Yeah, a turbo oil return I'll get made up locally. We're going to get stuck into the gearbox in this video, so we'll take a look at that as well. And yeah, I can't think anymore. I won't ramble on. I'll just get started on something to do that. Jumping the gun a bit here, but for the day that's in it, I'll stick some wiper blades. Don't like leaving them sitting on the glass like that. Right, I'm going to change the timing belt. Pretty simple task when the engine's sitting here like this anyway. You know, if you've ever messed around with Volkswagens, you found yourself in the wheel arch trying to get the Allen key heads, which have stripped out of the crankshaft pulley. I had one stuck in this. You can usually chisel out, just chisel the edge until they come free. They usually end up looking something like that. Nearly always a problem. What else? Now, I'm going to reset this from the marks from the last time it was done. This belt was done just before the thing was parked, but that belt's in a bad old state now. They don't visibly have to have any damage at all or any wear. They should look perfectly good when you take them off. I'm going to do tensioners as well. It's more likely that these tensioners will fail as soon as you've changed your belt. It usually seems to be the case. Now, if you go on any forum on about it or anything, they're just going to tell you, you can't do this without a computer. It's true to an extent. The pump's very tunable. I don't get into the computer side of it. It's where my brain stops, really. But you will absolutely reset this and get it running and driving. It's probably that last few percent of getting it really optimum that tuning's required for. I had a time belt snap on my Passat once. I managed to switch it off in time and reset it, and was looking up about setting the time in there. You can't do it without the tools, you can't do it without this, it'll never work, blah blah. I hate forums, stay off them. Full of negativity. So with these, at least the older 1.6s and the 1.9s, there's a window on the gearbox side to find, it's just a little plastic plug. You take that out, find the top dead center mark on the crankshaft pulley. It's marked on the flywheel, sorry. It's marked on one of the ring gear teeth, and you center it up with a pointer that's set in the gearbox. Now, I don't have a gearbox on this, so I can't do that. Then you rotate the cam, and if you remove the valve cover, there's a slot in the end of the cam which you can fit. I used to always use a spanner. The edge of the spanner used to fit in it, and it's off center, so it'll lock the cam in the right position. You could set the pump to the timing mark, and when you go to put your belt on, the camshaft pulley was keyless. So the idea was that you slack the camshaft pulley with the cam locked in the right position, fit your belt on the crankshaft and on the injector pump, and then it gave you that slight movement to gain whether it's half a tooth out or not on the camshaft pulley, and that was your fine tuning on it. Now, there's different ways people have of doing this. One I've seen is that splitting the belt in half lengthwise, removing the outer half of the belt and then putting the new one on. I'm not a big fan of that. They're usually hard enough to get on anyway, and once the tension is slack, I don't really trust it to not be out a tooth by the time I've tightened it back up. So you need to be confident with them. You can wreck your engine pretty easy with it. They're not massively complicated. Rule of thumb as well for the tension on it was, a lot of them have self-tensioners now, but was half a turn, half a twist on the longest point of the belt and no more, given that this would probably be, probably maybe a hair slack because I can go past half a turn. Just do your homework on it, watch more videos besides me, but it's not rocket science. It's usually just awkward where it is in the car, van, whatever. So we'll go ahead, we'll change that. And probably just, one other thing is to maybe at very least mark it. If you can put your engine's top dead center so that the engine's own marks all line up, better again. And if you're unsure about how it's been done before, that might be the time to do a reset. So if you go back to top dead center, reset the mark of the gearbox, reset the cam in its position, then at least you know you're right. You're not just going off what somebody else has done in the past. So that's another thing you can do. But yeah, we'll steam ahead and get it done. Okay, so I've taken the valve cover off. I actually found a nice piece of metal that fits snugly in that slot there. So there you have it. It's off center. So that's that. Now, you see that 0 on top? That's top dead center on the flywheel, and that would correspond with that window and that marking in there. So presumably it should sit right on the edge of that. Now, obviously I have that problem of that gearbox being there and the flywheel being over there. On this side, the injector pump does have a way of locking it. This isn't perfect. If you had something a little bit snugger there, that would work. You can just see it just sits into that, and they do tend to spring out of whack a bit, but it won't move a tooth out with that anyway, and I will mark it and check it. So that's cam. I would like to check the top dead center on the flywheel a little better. I mean, you can center that there on that tooth, but the flywheel gives you a much bigger, it'll show up a much smaller tolerance. And as I mentioned, I was wondering where all these needles were coming from the other day, but yeah, that's the spigot or pilot bearing in there is knackered. Now these sprockets had a fair bit of surface rust on them from sitting idle, but I found a few patches like this. That's not very good. It's like compressed belts or oil or something's sat, I found, in 4 or 5 different places. So I'll dig that out, make sure they're clean. That wouldn't do anything any good anyway.
Yeah, that's all it is really. You can see there is a tool again for that, but if you put a little Allen key in one of those and screwdriver in the other, you can pivot it around to tension the belt. That belt's nice now, it will not go more than that, so that's good. It's surprising how much movement you can get in the crankshaft when you look at the other side, considering the cam was locked solid. But I've taken the cam lock out now. I did mark this, which was fairly vital. You can see, sorry, that's dark. So you can just see this tooth here I've lined up with this little scratch I put on there. I'll double check it when I've got a gear. Oh, I can't when I've got the gearbox on because the gearbox is going on upside down. But anyway, yeah, and because this plate on the back is actually loose, I marked it against the block as well there. But like, I can move this a few teeth off either way, even with the cam locked. But either way, it's fairly centered. So yeah, tension it up now. Give it 2 rotations by hand, make sure everything's good. You don't want to crank it over and here it goes smashy smashy bang bang, so just turn that over twice and then we know where valves are clearing pistons and all that good stuff. There we go, that's timing belt changed. Okay, so as a good few of you will be aware, to flip these gearboxes you have to take 15mm off that joining face to allow the thickness of the adapter plate. The way that is generally done is you have to strip down the whole gearbox and send the bell housing off to get it machined. Now, my trade was actually joinery, so I'm quite comfortable with a router, and I'm quite happy that the tungsten tipped router blades will cut this aluminium. So I want to have a go at routering it off. I know this is probably where me and anybody of an engineering mind will part ways. So to back myself up a little bit, I'm going to give this a run around with the dial gauge. I seem to have a difference so far of about 0.07mm. We'll have a look at it going around there and just see what we come up with. And then my plan is to attempt it in one run, so set the router depth and go in one run, leaving a very thin edge which can just be removed afterwards, but I'll go through that as we go anyway. First of all, we'll check this. So currently that gauge is set very close to 0. Now I can't get a smooth run all the way around because the gearbox isn't round, but I'm just turning this now by turning the actual drive so I don't have to touch the gauge. Now, I've got my router set to 15mm, and I've locked it off there and tightened the crap out of it so that bit's not going to drop. Now, the reason I want to try and make it in one pass is 0.5 mil even, in or out, even more, is going to make very little difference to anything. But what is important is a reasonably flat surface. Again, it's only the clutch on the spline when you think that mounts, so there's you want to keep it as good as possible to lessen the chance of any wear in there, but it's not going to put much else out. But one pass, like, gives me the chance of keeping it very, very even all the way across. I mean, if I go in or out 1/4 mil on each pass and I do 3 or 4 passes, then, you know, I could be way out by the end of it. But in one pass, I can only go so far out. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to go full thickness. I'll router away a lot of it, but leave just one little edge. And the point of that edge is going to be just to support the router for one, and that can be cut and just filed away afterwards. It's not going to be the meeting face as such, and at very least it'll be easy to file it flush with what I've already machined away. So yeah, we'll give it a go, see does the router even cut it. So that's how far I've got with it now. It's actually way softer than I thought it would be. It took about 25 minutes to do that. I thought I'd have to go a lot slower. Now I did get it, it just bit on me there and took the tungsten off the bit, but it's actually not that hard at all. I mean, it's not, that bit has already made an oak stairs, so it's not even new, but this is just like cutting a hard timber, really. It's not bad. So I just have to decide now whether I go sacrifice another bit for that last section, or whether I just cut it off. I have ran it along to kind of mark it, but yeah, that inner edge then I'm just going to cut off and file flat with the rest of the face. Right, so there now, I've taken off all that lip. I just cut this section here off. It was kind of dipping in there anyway on the old surface, so yeah, I just cut it away. I marked it as well as I could with the outside edge with the router, and just ran a file over the surface and a bit of very light sandpaper on the board. So I'll give a look at that, and yeah, if there's any high spots, I will. When I lay the adapter plate on it, I'll look for any little high spots that need taking down or anything, but I'm pretty happy. So I think everything's within about 0.2 of a millimetre, and I think I can't remember what I was getting at the start, but it wasn't perfect before, so. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. The absolute maximum that's out is 0.25 mil. So like, and I'll give that. I can look at that when the plate goes on it because I'm sure that's only in a couple of very isolated spots that can just be taken down. So there we go, gearbox cut.
So the main reason for that is not so much like it wouldn't cost that much to get that done. Uh, Tearing the gearbox apart would be a bit of a nuisance, but really it's more just I like to do as much possible here as I can, and yeah, like some things need to go to be properly engineered. You know, there's no way around that a lot of the time, but the discrepancy in these it's not that absolutely critical. You know. Like even if I'm quarter of a mil out in place, that's still going to sit. Chances are completely flat as it would have done. So yeah, I'm quite happy to do it like that. Cost me a used router bit, which I paid 20 quid for at some point, and you know took about 25 minutes of routering and a little bit just grinding, cleaning up, taking the lip off and stuff, and it's done. So yeah, move on to the next thing. So that's a few major bits out of the way. Adapter plate is well on its way at this stage, and I have the pilot bearing and a few other bits and pieces there as well, so I'll be getting all those put in the next few days. And yeah, then we'll start looking at engine mounts, etc. like that. And yeah, get to the, hopefully, I haven't heard anything about the ECU, so I must get on to him and hopefully get this thing up and running sooner rather than later. So thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you could hit the like button as well, that would be great. So thank you very much and see you next time. Cheers.